welcome to today's fireside chat on all things powering authenticity and authenticity within content. The days of perfectly polished content are out, giving way to a new era of unfiltered, raw and real content that really does take centre stage at the moment. Today's consumers are savvy. They don't want to be seeing sleek sales tactics. They want to be craving honesty, transparency, and they want to be seeing the human side from brands. And today we're going to be talking about how we can shed that traditional brand playbook and really build those connections. And our amazing panelists are going to talk about how we can shift from that polished content to that authentic content and make sure that we're connecting with audiences in a really authentic way. So before we do that, I am just going to hand over to our panelists to introduce themselves. Ony, I'm going to pass over to you first.
Hi everyone, my name is Ony and I'm the Senior Content and Community Manager at Ellesse, or if I'm saying it correctly, the Italian way, Ellesse. So yes, everything social, content and kind of like media and boosting, I kind of head up.
Hi everyone, I'm Reid. I am the Influencer Marketing Manager at Benefit Cosmetics. So everything influencer related to do with Benefit, that's me and my team. So morning guys.
Amazing. So we'll kick off the panel with a little bit of an icebreaker question because that morning coffee might not have kicked in yet. It is still very early. But Kibs, I'll come to you first. What is one of your favourite pieces of creator content that you've seen recently and why?
If you asked me last week, it would have been the Suspect Challenge, just seeing that in general. But I think it was 2 days ago, Jack Ramoose's pop-up announcement with Bemi, better known as Auntie Bus. And to me, that was influencer marketing done to a T. I think using Bemi was a great tactic. I think she's got a community. There's nothing that screams London more than like red buses. So having her there with her sunglasses with the buses behind her to announce the London pop-up, I think was genius. And if you looked at the comments, you could really see that people were like, I'm hoping she's there because people are like, I'm going to come to see you. But also it shows that they understand who their audience is. They understand who's been driving their brand online. And it's, I think, working with Auntie Bus was an amazing tactic. And I've watched that video about 700 times. And if I could like it 700 times, I would have reposted it in the office. We were watching it. So to me, that's been like highlight of the week, content-wise.
Yeah, amazing. Sounds good. Ony, what about you?
So for me, it's actually just generally a creator called Sam Eucalyptus. He's a photographer, and the kind of imagery and like the landscapes and the people that he captures, it's all kind of like these human kind of like candid moments of people kind of interacting together, but like the landscapes are actually stunning. And he gets like a stolen kiss. He gets like people working, gets someone like rubbing like sunblock into the other person's back. It's amazing, but just because of how he shoots, brands like Jacquemus are actually now working with him to create their content. So yeah, definitely check him out. Yeah.
Amazing. I feel like I'm on the Nara Smith hype at the moment. I don't know if anyone else is, but that Marc Jacobs collaboration was just amazing. Really stopped me in my tracks. And I was just like, she's so authentically herself in that. I think it's great. Amazing. So let's get into it then. So we mentioned at the very start that polished content is out and raw, unfiltered content is in. And across the agency, we're seeing more and more of that brands are using more authentic content as part of their regular BAU content stream. Kibs, why do you think that audiences have sort of shifted away from caring about that polished and perfectly polished content? And what has changed in consumer expectations there?
I think with that, what has changed mainly is TikTok. I think pre-2020, Instagram was reigning supreme and Instagram's very polished. You want to see the aesthetics. I want to see your outfits. I want to see all that. And then I like to call TikTok the B-roll. So after someone's gone on this amazing holiday to the Maldives and I've seen like all the palm trees, I've seen everything, on TikTok I get to see unpacking and doing the washing, which is actually really real. I think consumers want relatable content, and I think they're being sold a lot just everywhere, from ads on their phone to just as you go on your phone, you're being sold stuff. And I think on TikTok, we're seeing that. What I've seen, creators that are doing really, really well are creators that you don't even realize that they're selling to you because they're just being themselves and you trust them. So for us as a brand, we really lean into those creators, and then we try to adopt that on our channels as well. So we try to make our content as relatable as we can as a brand. And I think a lot of brands are realizing now that consumers aren't silly. And obviously those working on the teams, I'm a consumer, I work in marketing. So when I'm scrolling, I have the same thoughts as consumers, and it's about bringing that head into our strategy meetings and being like, okay, well, marketing head off, consumer head on. Do I want to see that? Will I sit there and watch that? Am I going to be like, I'm going to add that to my basket, or I'm going to be like, love that for you, hun, and keep scrolling? So it's finding that balance of, yes, we like to see the polished content. However, the relatable content is what consumers want. And I think as brands, we need to really lean into that and not be scared of it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that brings me on to my next question. We know that authentic content is proven to work well with brands, but there is that fine line between authenticity and still maintaining a professional image. I think the key is just to ensure that you've got a mix and that you tested it. I would definitely say test. That's definitely one of the things that I say all the time. Make sure you're testing things. But Ony, how should brands balance that authentic and professional mix? And is there a risk to being too raw or too unpolished?
I think it's really important to also consider being like aspirational. So, cause I think we can make the mistake of, trying to be too authentic sometimes that can, end up with content that's a bit underwhelming. So I'll give you an example. At Ellesse, we used to sponsor, for the past 3 years, we sponsored Tomorrowland Music Festival. Don't know if anyone knows it. It's, we sponsored the winter one, which had like snow sports and, these amazing stages in the middle of the Alps. And we thought, we're going to bring all these influencers who are like first time, they've never never skied before, and we want to get all this content with them the first year. But as you can imagine, looking at people like dragging themselves on a flat slope, it's not really inspiring, but it's like our biggest moment of the year. So authenticity actually ended up coming from us sponsoring the Alpe d'Huez ski team, who were like amazing, like professional and semi-pro snowboarders and skiers, and they were doing amazing 360 tricks in the air, etc. And that content actually ended up being so well engaged, and it ended up generating millions of views. So for the past 2 years, it was our best performing content. We still did have the mix of the first time fashion and streetwear kind of influencers coming out and kind of getting their take on coming to this amazing festival. But I think it's really important to have that balance, because you don't want to end up with having underwhelming content or content that feels quite forced. And sometimes authenticity can come in talent that you wouldn't expect at first, because we're thinking for our brand, these kind of fashion influencers, they're who we normally work with, but for this occasion, let's work with the local ski teams, and from that's what really generated the authenticity for us. So to bring it back to my point originally, yes, very important to make sure there's that balance of aspiration, because that essentially feeds the professionalism still.
Yeah, amazing. Was there anything you can...
Just 100%, I agree with you.
I think one of the things that we've noticed is that sometimes there's a bit of a resistance from brands to test authentic content, particularly if they've got strict brand guidelines or if they've got long-standing values and aesthetics. But we do know that it works. You know that it works. I know that it works. And we've tested it for one of the heritage brands that we worked on with Portmeirion. So for anyone who doesn't know, they are a tableware company. And they were celebrating their 50th birthday. So we needed to promote their, collection. And we used a mix of both authentic, influencer assets as well as branded assets, and the results really spoke for themselves. We saw a 75% stronger click-through rate from the influencer assets, but I think just having that mix to optimize towards whatever the user is going to resonate with can really bolster performance. Ony, with Ellesse being a heritage brand, have you got any tips on how you can honor that legacy but still embrace the spontaneous and diverse nature of UGC?
Definitely. I think it's really important for brands to reintroduce themselves to their audiences over the years, especially for heritage brands. And definitely UGC and kind of influencer, marketing content has really been vital to the brand, to storytell, tell our story. The fact that Ellesse is a ski brand and or a ski and tennis brand, originally has been vital with working with, new talent. And I think a key tip would be working with influencers that really kind of represent your brand values and your content buckets. So we developed that out, what they were, that kind of Italian sprezzatura, the way that people kind of Italian people kind of wear, different product with like ease, sporting. And then we also had tailoring for the fact that our founder was a tailor originally. So based off of that, we started all these different, new content series. So we started working with different up and coming tailors, and that developed into the tailors program that we do with Graduate Fashion Foundation now. And we had our always on styling, where we wanted people who could, have that kind of Italian attitude when it came to like wearing clothes and fashion. So these really kind of helped us build out how we worked with talent really authentically. And then for us going forward, we're just going to take it a step further and be like, how would our, founder Leonardo, how would he have done it, originally? And he was someone who always wanted to work with different talent or sponsor different athletes based on not just their vocation, but also their kind of like attitude. So that's what we're going to be doing more so looking forward as well.
Love that. We know that there are many benefits for brands sort of embracing imperfection and transparency. Kibs, coming back to you, what would you say those key benefits are?
I think the major benefit, no pun intended, is trust and community. I think doing all that and being and embracing that, you create a community that trusts you. And I think as a brand, it can be really hard to get a community that trusts you. And as we all know, once you lose that trust, it's really hard to get it back. So it all boils down to, in terms of our influencers as well. So one thing we always start with, whenever I have meetings with influencers, I'm always saying, we're the UK's #1 brow brand. Not every one of our products you're going to love. And I'm very, very keen on, if you don't like something, don't promote it. You don't have to. You can tell me, Kibs, do you know what? I love Benefit, but that brow pencil doesn't work for me. I like this one. And I think having that and being able to tell them that they can be honest with us behind the scenes means that when they then go out, create content, it's very authentic. If they want to say, I love Benefit, they've got 5 brow pencils, but I love this one. This is my favorite one. These ones don't necessarily work for me, but they could work for you. We embrace that. And I think a lot of influencers can be scared to say, that shade doesn't work for me, or that brow product doesn't work for me. So we really encourage that in-house. And I think what I've seen through content that gets created around our brand is it creates authenticity through influencers for us as well. But that started from the top. So it started from us and it's then filtered through. We then copy that on our own channels. Then we are quite tongue-in-cheek. So if you know Benefit, we're under LVMH. People are always shocked, LVMH, because we're very pink, we're very loud, we're unapologetically Benefit, but that's kind of our superpower. We are your beauty best friend. So we try to have that from when you go into our stores, when you come to our own channels, from when you see our influencer content. It all comes back to that ethos of we are your beauty best friend. So leaning into whole like being transparent and being imperfect, we kind of run with that across all of our sections. So whenever you see us online, you're very much like, yeah, you can see that. You can see that we are a bit tongue-in-cheek. We can be a bit silly. We're a prestige brand, but feel comfortable to come to us. And on doing that, we've created this amazing community that if you look at our comment section, our digital team do a great job of like commenting back. And as a brand, speaking to your community and being a bit tongue-in-cheek, using colloquial language, but it being natural, you see the benefits of that from like our UGC content that we have coming through, and then us posting it on our channels and them getting really excited. It's all started from, again, the top, and us being very transparent from the beginning and very intentional with everything that we do.
Yeah, I love that, because the last thing you want is to engage with a piece of content by a content creator that you can clearly tell they're not engaged with the brand.
That whole I'm obsessed.
Yeah.
Now, come on.
Yeah.
We're not. And my thing is, I am more than okay with you to be like, I'm not obsessed with it. I like it, but I prefer this. And I think that can be something that brands are scared of, but I'm very big on like ditch the I'm obsessed, because it's like consumers again will be like, but last week you was obsessed with this, and this week, and you see it in the comments. And I never want to put influencers in that position. So I'm always like, from a brand perspective, don't do that for us. Don't not lie, but don't be inauthentic for us, because your following will see that, and then it dilutes your word.
Yeah. And they're coming like consumers are becoming savvy to that as well. Like if you are
very savvy
promoting so many different
savvy.
products, you just get called out in the comments, like you say. Cool. So this one can be for either or both of you, but for brands that are trying to enter the UGC or creator space, creating content for the first time can be quite daunting to know where to start. Ony, I'll come to you first, actually. What are some first steps as a brand that you can take just to encouraging that authentic content?
I think similar to what I was speaking on earlier, just knowing what your brand values are and knowing what your key content buckets are, and then you'll find influencers and creators that really align with that. Because otherwise, you're like trying to make someone fit to something that doesn't actually like align with your brand, and then it feels forced, and people will be able to tell, the consumer. So I think it's really important to have creators who are a natural fit, because then they will be more engaged. They're more engaged as well, like with your product, and it will be more seamless, like your content, and you won't have to go back with so many rounds of edits, etc. And I also think giving talent a clear brief as well, and allowing them to have kind of creative freedom when creating their content, because when you give them too much, it can almost feel again like contrived. So those would be my initial tips.
Yeah, sounds good. Sometimes if it's scripted, it can just feel forced, can't it? And then you lose that authenticity. Kibs, what are your thoughts on that one?
Just adding on what you said about briefs, great point. I'm always big on, whenever we are working with influencers, we're working together, we're a team on this, we both want the campaign to do well. It's in both of our interests that it does well. So it being an ongoing conversation. So we do the brief and then going back and forth. Normally you get told 2 rounds of amendments, but if you're having that open conversation, you can get more than 2, trust me. And then knowing your brand voice. Once you are very clear in what your brand voice is and what your brand personality is, finding talent that aligns with your brand voice is a lot easier. If you're not sure, or your brand wants to do everything, you end up working with everybody, and then again it dilutes your voice. So I think be really confident and concise in what the brand voice is and what the brand personality is, and then naturally influencers will gravitate towards you naturally. But then when you're out there looking for influencers, you know exactly what you're looking for, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, amazing. I've got one final question for you both. Could you highlight any tools or platforms that you have been especially useful in sourcing and managing creators in UGC?
For me, Tribe. I couldn't live without Tribe. I think from on Tribe, if you have it, if your company has it, create a discovery. Mind-blowing, because you'll go through them and be like, there's people that are tagging you that are not on your radar, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, and then you go on a rabbit hole and it's been 2 hours and you're on Beauty by Molly's page and then Beauty by Bex's page, and you're having a look through, and I think it really helps. Obviously I have a team, and obviously humanly our For You pages are always screenshotting, love her, love him, but Tribe in tracking and pulling and making sense of the madness. Sometimes you just go on Tribe and you're like, well, this is the numbers. Sometimes me and Ony were speaking about follow accounts and how nowadays follow accounts don't really matter, but trying to explain that can be really difficult. Tribe will show engagement rates, will show views, and you just have to open Tribe and be like, that's why we want to work with her. She got 17,000 on TikTok. However, her engagement is 17.7 and her average views is 500k. So it just makes sense. So yeah, Tribe.
Yeah, we were discussing that before, weren't we? How the algorithm is slightly different on TikTok. So people are naturally coming to your For You page. You don't necessarily have to follow them. So I think follow account is slightly different when you're looking at TikTok compared to Instagram. Ony, do you use any tools at Ellesse?
So yeah, Tribe, similar to what you were saying. And then for us, it's really organic. So, we'll look through our mentions, who's naturally engaging with the brand, our DMs, and then also our network. So we go through kind of influencer kind of connections that we've made over the years, and see who is relevant to our brand, and then we kind of just build from there. But a lot of it has been kind of organic kind of outreach as well. We did have a PR agency in the past that used to help with influencer management and kind of content creation, but now it's really kind of managed by myself and a girl called Abby on my team, the 2 little powerful duo. So we do all of the kind of outreach to influencers that way. But I think definitely organically, looking at influencers, comments, their engagement. Because again, it's so funny. We have like global partners because we have like a licensee business. So sometimes the partners in like Spain, it's like, look, we've got this amazing influencer we want to work with. And they've got like 500k followers. And then I look at their, the likes and it's like 250. I'm like, we're not going to work with them. So yeah, I think that's really important to also, with your own kind of a natural eye, kind of go through the actual quality of the engagement too.
One last thing to add. If you can get in the room with a TikTok rep as well and sit down and pick their brain, do it and just ask them loads of questions, take notes and take it back. It really works.
1000%. Sorry, I have to add to that. Yes, we had a good TikTok rep who's now left us. But once you get one on board, you hold on to that email address and you're like, hey, James,
why has this not done well?
I know.
I just want to question why that hasn't been pushed in the algorithm.
Exactly.
Well, amazing. That brings our first discussion to a close. We hope you sort of leave today with a fresh perspective on what it means to build trust in a digital first world. And authenticity isn't just a trend, it's actually an expectation from consumers nowadays. But I just want to say a huge thank you to our panelists for sharing their insights and strategies. I really have enjoyed the conversation. I hope everyone else has too. But yeah, I'm going to hand over to Billy now. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.